When you desire something, the first step is not effort, not struggle, not asking another, but the quiet recognition that it already exists within you. Creation is finished. All possible realities already are, and the one you long for lives even now, waiting for your acceptance. But how do you bring it forth? You do not wrestle with circumstances. You do not plead with the outer world. Instead, you do the most powerful thing of all. You relax. Relaxation is not laziness. It is faith in action. To relax is to declare, I need not force, for it is already mine. In stillness, the truth of your desire rises to the surface. You let go of anxious grasping, and in that surrender, you step into alignment with the life you seek. And then, trust. Trust is the invisible substance that carries the unseen into the seen. Trust means resting in the knowing that what you claimed within must unfold without. When you trust, you no longer ask when or how. You simply know. Today it is done. Expectation is the magnet of fulfillment. To expect it the same day is not arrogance, it is clarity. It is recognizing that time bends to the state you occupy. If you feel yourself to already be the one who has, then the outer must conform swiftly. The delay is never in reality, it is only in belief. So, walk today as though it has already happened. Speak with the tone of one who possesses. Rest with the calmness of one who knows. Allow your world to catch up to the truth you are already living inside. The secret is this. The moment you dare to relax, to trust, to expect now, life has no choice but to reveal what you have claimed. So this very day, not tomorrow, not someday, relax, trust and expect. Watch as your world bends to your inner certainty and delivers to you the evidence of what you already know to be true. Imagination is the seed of all reality. The moment you see it inwardly, it is already yours. This truth may sound too simple, yet it is the foundation of everything you have ever experienced. Nothing in your outer world has ever appeared without first existing in the unseen chambers of mind. Every building you passed, every invention you hold, every relationship you have entered, each was first an idea, a picture, a quiet vision held within someone's imagination. The outer world is nothing but the shadow of inner vision. And when you realize this, you begin to treat your imagination not as a playground for idle thought, but as the creative womb of life itself. The imagination is not daydreaming in the way most dismiss it. It is the act of creation. When you imagine with feeling, when you allow the image of your desire to come alive within, you plant a seed. Just as a gardener does not plant a seed and then return the next morning to dig it up in doubt, you must not question the seed of imagination. You see it inwardly, you feel its reality, and you know it is already yours. The unseen does not need time to exist. It is real the moment it is conceived. The outer world, what you call reality, is nothing more than the slow unfolding of what you have already accepted within. When you hold an inner picture with conviction, the world rearranges itself to match. The circumstances, the people, the so-called coincidences, these are simply the soil breaking open as the seed you planted begins to sprout. It may take the form of sudden opportunities, chance meetings, or an effortless unfolding of events, Yet in truth, none of it is random. It is the harvest of imagination. This is why you must guard what you allow yourself to dwell upon. If you give life to fear, worry, or limitation in imagination, you are sowing seeds of experiences you do not desire. The law is impartial. It does not ask whether you are imagining in faith or in fear. It only knows to bring forth what you have accepted. If you can imagine misfortune and feel it real, it will come. But if you can imagine success, love, abundance, and dwell in that vision until it feels natural, then these too will be compelled to appear. The moment you see it inwardly, it is already yours, because possession begins in consciousness. Ownership is not when you hold something in your hands, but when you claim it within. The world will eventually reflect what you already know yourself to be. If you imagine a life of freedom, of joy, of fulfillment, and remain faithful to that unseen picture, then even if the outer denies it now, it must come. Imagination is the beginning of everything, and to live wisely is to live as the careful sower of your own inner garden. Plant only what you wish to see, and rest in the assurance that what you see inwardly will, without fail, become the world you walk in tomorrow. Relaxation is the bridge. In stillness, you align with the fulfillment of your desire. The restless mind believes it must strive, fight, and labor to bring about change. But in truth, struggle is the denial of the very thing you long for. To chase is to affirm distance. To strain is to confess lack. True power is not found in force, but in surrender, not in frantic activity, but in calm expectation. Relaxation is not weakness. It is a declaration of mastery. It is saying, I need not grasp, for what I seek is already mine. When you enter a state of stillness, you dissolve the frantic noise of doubt and fear. In stillness, your attention is freed from the outer evidence that denies your desire, and it returns to the inner world where creation begins. This is why stillness is a bridge. It takes you from the state of wanting to the state of having. The moment you relax into the inner vision of your desire, you have crossed over. You no longer stand on the side of longing. You stand on the side of fulfillment. Think of the times you have wanted something so strongly that your mind would not rest. You replayed the absence of it over and over, trying to figure out how it would come, when it would come, and through whom it would arrive. That agitation only built a stronger sense of lack. The more you pushed, the farther it seemed. But recall also the times when you simply let go, when you released the tension and rested in a quiet, knowing that it was done. Strangely, in those moments of ease, the desire moved toward you effortlessly. What appeared as coincidence or luck was only the natural flow of reality, meeting the state of stillness you had entered. Relaxation is alignment. It is choosing to dwell in the end instead of battling with the process. In that stillness, you taste the feeling of having. You breathe as the one who already possesses. You walk as the one who already is. This is not passive daydreaming, it is active embodiment. The still mind does not plead with the future, it rests in the present fulfillment. To align with desire is to accept it now, and acceptance can only be felt in ease. When you are tense, you are resisting. When you are relaxed, you are allowing. An allowance is the very act by which the unseen flows into the seen. Just as a river cannot move freely through a dammed channel, your desire cannot pass through a mine filled with resistance. But when you release, when you soften into trust, the current of life carries it to you with perfect precision. So make relaxation your practice. Breathe deeply, still the chatter of doubt, and let your body and mind sink into calm. See your desire within, and then rest as though it were already complete. In that stillness, you have crossed the bridge. You are no longer reaching, you are receiving. And as surely as the seed knows how to break through the soil, your desire knows how to appear in form. Relax, and it will be. Expectation is faith in motion. To expect today is to invite immediate manifestation. Faith by itself is invisible, intangible, and for many a distant concept. But when faith takes on the form of expectation, it becomes alive, active, and magnetic. Expectation is the forward movement of belief. It is faith dressed in certainty. To expect is to know that what you have accepted inwardly must reveal itself outwardly. And the degree to which you expect determines the speed at which the invisible is called into form. When you expect something, you no longer ask if. The question of possibility is already settled. Expectation removes hesitation, because expectation is possession. You anticipate with calm assurance, not with anxious hope. The one who hopes still wonders, but the one who expects knows. This knowing, carried in quiet confidence, sends out an invisible call to life itself. People, opportunities, and events respond, aligning themselves with the inner state of certainty you hold. Expectation is powerful because it operates in the present, not in the future. To expect today is to declare, now is the appointed hour. It shifts desire from a vague someday into an immediate reality. When you postpone expectation, you postpone manifestation. But when you rise in the morning and walk as though your desire is set to unfold this very day, you live in the vibration of readiness, you prepare the way for it to appear, for you are already aligned with receiving. Think of a guest you have invited to your home. If you truly expect them today, you prepare. You set the table, you tidy the room, you wait with anticipation. You do not say, perhaps in a few months they will arrive. No, you act in alignment with their immediate arrival. So too with your desires. If you expect them today, your thoughts, words, and actions naturally shift into harmony with their presence. Expectation opens the door, and life cannot help but walk through it. Many delay their desires because they live in waiting rather than expecting. They say one day it will come, and so the arrival remains at a distance. The law mirrors your stance, and if you push fulfillment into the future, it remains in the future. But the one who claims it now, who expects it without hesitation, pulls it into the present. To expect is to compress time, to collapse the distance between desire and fulfillment. Expectation is not straining, it is resting in the assurance that what is inwardly true must become outwardly visible. It is the relaxed confidence of one who has already received. To expect today is to carry yourself differently, to speak differently, to see differently. You no longer look for signs of absence, you notice only the hints of arrival. So let your faith move into motion. Do not hope vaguely or wait endlessly. Expect, and expect now, for when you dare to believe that today is the day, you summon immediate manifestation. Life rushes to meet the one who stands in the certainty of fulfillment, and the world reshapes itself to honor the power of expectation. Without delays, trust accelerates. The world mirrors the certainty of your inner stance. Doubt is not a passive state. It is active resistance. When you doubt, you are not standing still. You are moving in the opposite direction of your desire. Doubt plants seeds of delay, scattering the power of your imagination and weakening the conviction of your faith. The mind that entertains doubt creates obstacles that were never there to begin with. It looks for evidence of failure, and in doing so, it multiplies the appearance of obstacles. Doubt whispers, "What if it doesn't work?" And that question alone begins to build the reality of delay. Trust, on the other hand, is movement forward. Trust accelerates the unfolding of your desire because it removes inner contradiction. When you trust, you are unified. Your thoughts, emotions, and inner stance all point in one direction. There is no resistance, no counter-belief pulling you back. Trust is the atmosphere in which desire flourishes. It is the fertile soil where the seed of imagination breaks open and begins to grow. The world is a mirror, and it cannot reflect anything other than the certainty you hold within. If you are divided inside, partly believing, partly doubting, your outer world mirrors that division. You experience mixed results, delays, and uncertainty, not because life is unkind, but because you have not yet chosen to stand firmly in one state. But when you place yourself fully in trust, the mirror becomes clear. The world has no choice but to reflect the calm certainty of your inner being. Trust does not mean knowing how or when something will appear. It means resting in the assurance that it already exists and that its path to you is inevitable. Doubt constantly asks for proof, but trust knows proof is unnecessary. Trust feels the reality of fulfillment so deeply that outer evidence becomes irrelevant. And paradoxically, it is this very detachment from needing proof that allows the outer world to bring the proof quickly. When you trust, your energy changes. You speak with authority, you move with confidence, you carry yourself as one who already has. That shift in inner stance communicates silently to life, and life responds with speed. Doors open, people appear, opportunities align, not because of chance, but because you have ceased to contradict your own desire. Doubt stretches time, while trust compresses it. Doubt looks ahead and says, "Not yet." Trust stands in the now and declares, "It is done." And the outer world, ever faithful to the inner, obeys. This is why those who live in trust often seem to experience miracles. What appears sudden or effortless to others is simply the natural acceleration that comes when one removes inner resistance. So examine your stance. If you find yourself waiting, hoping, questioning, you are entertaining doubt, and delay will follow. But if you choose to rest, to trust, to stand firm in the certainty of fulfillment, you accelerate the manifestation of your desire. The world has no will of its own, it only reflects. Stand in trust and watch how swiftly life mirrors back the reality of your inner assurance. Time is an illusion of the mind. Creation is already finished. Only acceptance makes it visible now. What you call time is not a force that creates, but a stage upon which creation unfolds. Every possibility, every outcome, every version of your life already exists in the eternal now. Nothing is being built, nothing is being added. The script of existence is complete, written outside of time. What you experience as past, present, and future is simply the mind's way of organizing infinite realities into a sequence that feels linear. Yet the truth is this: nothing is waiting to be made. All is finished. When you understand this, the pressure of waiting dissolves. You do not need to beg, strive, or plead for your desire to be created, for it already is. Somewhere within the infinite spectrum of reality, the version of you who has already attained it exists now. To manifest is not to force something into being, but to shift awareness to the version of reality where your desire is already true. Time does not bring it closer. Acceptance reveals it here. Consider how you recall a memory. To the mind, it feels as though you are moving backward in time, reliving an event. Yet that event is not happening now. It is simply a state of consciousness you re-enter. The same principle applies to the so-called future. The moment you imagine yourself as having something, you are touching that reality. You are not creating it out of nothing. You are tuning into what already is. This is why imagination is so powerful. It allows you to bypass the illusion of time and claim what is eternally present. The idea that it will come someday is a trap of the mind. To say your desire is in the future is to confess that it is not yours now, and so it remains forever distant. But to accept it as finished is to collapse the illusion of time. You do not wait for tomorrow, you declare it now. And in that acceptance, reality reorganizes itself to show you what you have already chosen. Think of a radio. All stations exist at once, broadcasting simultaneously. You do not create the station when you tune in, you simply align with it. So too with your desires. Every possibility is already broadcasting. You need only tune your inner state to the frequency of fulfillment. The moment you do, that version of reality becomes visible. Time can deceive you into thinking that you are separate from your desire, that you must earn it, wait for it, or prove yourself worthy. But when you see that creation is finished, you rest. You no longer chase or resist. You accept. And acceptance is the great unveiling. It lifts the veil of time and shows you the reality that has always been yours. So release the burden of waiting. Stop measuring days and hours as though they have power over your destiny. Step into the eternal now and accept. For the truth is simple yet profound. Creation is finished, and only your acceptance makes it visible today. Rest in assurance. Act in knowing. Your quiet confidence today brings tomorrow into this very moment. Assurance is not loud, nor is it desperate. It is a quiet strength, a steady certainty that what is claimed within must be revealed without. To rest in assurance is to stop wrestling with appearances, to cease questioning whether or not your desire will come. It is to live as though it is already so. When you rest in assurance, you align yourself with the end, and in doing so, you collapse the distance between what you call now and what you call tomorrow. Confidence is the language of fulfillment. Those who know something belongs to them do not fidget, plead, or worry. They carry themselves with ease, with composure, with a stillness that radiates. This is the essence of living in assurance. You do not need to announce it or convince others of it. The certainty within you silently reshapes the outer world. Life mirrors back the energy you embody, and assurance is the clearest signal of possession. But assurance alone does not mean inactivity. To rest in assurance is paired with action, yet not frantic action, not desperate motion, but action born of knowing. When you know something is yours, you naturally move in harmony with it. You take steps that feel aligned. You make choices consistent with the end you have already accepted. These actions are not attempts to make something happen. They are the effortless flow of one who knows it already has. Tomorrow is never separate from today. What you call tomorrow is only the echo of the state you embody now. If you are anxious today, tomorrow must echo that anxiety. If you are confident today, tomorrow must echo that confidence. To rest in assurance now is to program tomorrow with the certainty of fulfillment. Your quiet confidence today brings the reality of tomorrow rushing into the present moment, until the line between them dissolves completely. Think of someone awaiting an answer they already know will come. They do not pace the room in worry. They move calmly, smiling, already living in the result. Their confidence does not wait for the letter, the call, or the confirmation. It rests in the invisible knowing. And because of that knowing, their experience unfolds smoothly. This is the power of acting in assurance. Your quiet confidence is a magnetic field. It tells the world who you are and what you possess, even before evidence arrives. It is not noise, not striving, but a calm state of being that compels reality to match it. Assurance speaks in silence, and silence is heard more powerfully than words. So let today be filled with rest and knowing. Do not postpone your fulfillment to a distant tomorrow. Bring it here by embodying it now. Rest in the assurance that it is done, and act as one who has received. In that union of stillness and aligned action, you collapse time itself, and tomorrow steps forward into the eternal present. The truth is simple yet profound. All that you seek is already here, waiting only for your acceptance. Imagination plants the seed, relaxation bridges the gap, expectation moves faith into action, trust accelerates fulfillment, time dissolves in the knowing that creation is finished, and assurance anchors tomorrow into today. When you weave these truths into your daily living, you cease to chase, you cease to beg, you begin to live as the possessor, not the seeker. So rest in the end, stand in confidence, and let life reveal what you have already claimed within. There is nothing more to wait for, nothing more to force. Relax, trust, expect, and know it is done. Thank you for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever felt like time is slipping through your fingers, as if the circumstances around you are repeating in endless cycles? It can feel as though life is an unchanging tide, pulling us in the same direction no matter how hard we swim. But today I stand before you with the realization that can alter everything. I must change this time. NEVILLE is not merely a tool for fantasy, it is the foundational force that shapes our reality. Every achievement, invention, and significant change in the world began as a thought in someone's mind. This realization that imagination holds the power to create and transform has been understood by many great thinkers, yet it often slips away from our awareness. We tend to live in a world governed by our senses, believing only what we see, hear, and touch. But the truth is, the world we experience is largely a reflection of what we previously imagined, consciously or unconsciously. If we look closely, we will notice that everything in our lives, from the homes we live in to the relationships we nurture, originated from a mental blueprint. Someone had to imagine a new way of building before skyscrapers could rise. An artist had to envision a painting before the first stroke of the brush. Even on a personal level, the way we view ourselves, the beliefs we hold about who we are, is the root from which our experiences grow. The power of imagination is not a trivial concept, it is the key to unlocking a life of our choosing. To harness the power of imagination, we must first understand its role as a creative force. It is easy to dismiss our daydreams or fantasies as mere wishful thinking, but in reality, they are the seeds of what could be. When you imagine something vividly enough, it begins to take shape in the unseen realms of your mind. You begin to develop new beliefs and emotions that align with that vision. And because your outer world reflects your inner world, your circumstances start to shift in accordance with your new internal state. One of the greatest obstacles to using imagination effectively is doubt. Many people dismiss the idea that what they imagine can become real because they don't see immediate results. However, imagination is not about instant gratification, it is about planting the seed and allowing it to grow. Just as a tree does not spring up overnight, the changes we desire take time to manifest. But this should not discourage us. Instead, we must nurture our imagination, hold on to the vision we want to see in the world, and trust that it is in the process of becoming. It is a tool that we can use consciously, or it can work unconsciously, shaping our lives without our deliberate input. When we let fear, doubt, or limiting beliefs dominate our thoughts, we are unknowingly using the power of imagination against ourselves. We imagine scenarios of failure, of rejection, of never achieving our goals, and those imaginings create the emotional state that aligns with those outcomes. Without even realizing it, we manifest the very things we dread. That is why it is essential to become mindful of what we are imagining, to deliberately choose thoughts and visions that align with our highest aspirations. To truly wield the power of imagination, we must move beyond the limitations of our senses. The world tells us to be realistic, to base our expectations on past experiences or current conditions. But if we allow our imagination to be confined by the present moment, we will only ever recreate what we already know. Real change happens when we dare to imagine something greater, something beyond the limitations of our current reality. We must train ourselves to see, in our mind's eye, the possibilities that lie ahead, even when there is no tangible evidence to support them. One of the most powerful ways to activate imagination is through visualization. When you vividly imagine yourself living in the reality you desire, whether it's a new career, a healthier body, or a fulfilling relationship, you start to create the emotional and mental conditions that allow those things to manifest. Visualization isn't just about seeing an image in your mind, it's about feeling the emotions associated with that image. When you feel joy, excitement, and gratitude for a future that hasn't yet arrived, you are, in essence, collapsing the gap between the present and the future. Your brain begins to accept this imagined reality as real, and your actions, beliefs, and opportunities start to align with that new vision. Imagination allows us to transcend the limits of time and space. We can project ourselves into any situation, any future, and live from that place even before it physically arrives. This is the secret to true transformation. You must act as if you already are the person you want to become, and the world will begin to shape itself around you. Instead of waiting for circumstances to change, you change first, and the circumstances follow. The power of imagination is about more than just creating a better life for ourselves. It is about recognizing that we are the creators of our reality. We are not passive observers, waiting for life to happen to us. We have within us the power to imagine, and therefore to create, a life that reflects our deepest desires and highest potential. To change your life, you must first dare to imagine it differently, vividly, and without doubt. Only then can the outer world begin to shift in response to the inner vision you have held so firmly in your mind. To bring about real change in life, the concept of the feeling of the wish fulfilled is perhaps one of the most transformative principles. It is a simple yet profound idea to manifest what you desire. You must first feel as though your wish has already been fulfilled. The essence of this concept lies in shifting your emotional and mental state to align with the reality you want to experience, not sometime in the distant future, but right now. The feeling of your wish being fulfilled is the key to unlocking the changes you seek, because it is our emotions and inner beliefs that dictate how the outer world responds to us. When most people set goals or desire something new in their lives, whether it's a change in career, relationships, health, or finances, they often focus on what's missing. They think about what they don't have and place their energy on how far they are from achieving their goal. This creates a sense of lack, reinforcing the very conditions they want to change. The principle of the feeling of the wish fulfilled turns this approach on its head. Instead of waiting for circumstances to change before feeling satisfied, successful, or fulfilled, you begin to embody those feelings right now, as if the outcome has already been realized. Imagine for a moment that you have already achieved what you desire. If your goal is to experience financial abundance, picture yourself as someone who is already financially secure. How does that feel? How does it change the way you carry yourself, the way you interact with others, and the way you think about life? When you immerse yourself in that feeling, you are tuning your mind and body to a new frequency, one that is aligned with abundance rather than scarcity. This shift in feeling is not merely about positive thinking. It is about creating a deep, emotional alignment with the future you wish to experience. When you feel as though your wish has already been fulfilled, you begin to act, think, and make decisions from that place. Your inner world, your emotions, thoughts, and beliefs starts to match the reality you want to experience, and the outer world, in turn, responds to this change. The reason this works is because emotions are powerful creators. Our emotions influence our energy, our behaviors, and even the opportunities and people we attract into our lives. When you constantly feel lack, frustration, or doubt, you are emitting a frequency that attracts more of the same. But when you feel as though your wish is already fulfilled, when you cultivate feelings of gratitude, joy, peace, and satisfaction, you are broadcasting a signal that draws in experiences that match that frequency. The universe responds to the energy you put out, not necessarily the words you say or the actions you take. It's the underlying feeling that carries the real power. One of the most challenging aspects of practicing the feeling of the wish fulfilled is maintaining faith in the unseen. There is often a delay between when you shift your inner state and when the external reality catches up. This period of waiting can be difficult, especially if you are conditioned to believe only in what your senses can immediately verify. But this is where persistence and belief come into play. Just because you cannot yet see the changes in your physical environment does not mean they aren't happening. Your job is to maintain the feeling of your wish being fulfilled, regardless of what the outer world currently shows you. Over time, the external conditions will begin to align with the new emotional state you've cultivated. It's also important to understand that feeling the wish fulfilled doesn't mean forcing yourself into a state of delusional optimism. You are not pretending that problems don't exist or ignoring challenges. Instead, you are choosing to focus on the desired outcome with such emotional intensity that the challenges no longer dominate your consciousness. You can acknowledge the difficulties you face, but you do not let them define your emotional state. You allow the feeling of fulfillment to be your dominant vibration. Visualization is a powerful tool that can help you access the feeling of the wish fulfilled. By closing your eyes and vividly imagining yourself in the life you desire, you can practice feeling the emotions that come with that reality. The key here is to engage all of your senses. Imagine what it looks like, sounds like, and feels like to have your wish fulfilled. The more real you can make this experience in your mind, the more your emotions will respond to it, and the more powerful the effect will be. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is about embodying the emotions of your desired reality now, not later. By living from this state, you begin to attract the people, opportunities, and circumstances that will make that reality manifest in your life. You are no longer waiting for change to happen, you are creating it from within. It is through this inner transformation that the outer world will inevitably follow suit. At the core of this principle is the understanding that nothing exists outside of consciousness. It is through our perception, our awareness, that reality takes form. If you imagine your life as a movie, consciousness is both the director and the projector. Everything you see on the screen, the successes, failures, joy, and pain, is the result of the film reel playing in your mind. Your beliefs, whether empowering or limiting, are what project the scenes of your life. Change the reel, and the movie changes. This is why consciousness is so powerful. It is the source from which all experiences arise. Many people go through life believing that circumstances are imposed upon them, that they are at the mercy of external forces, whether those be societal pressures, luck, or the randomness of life events. However, when you grasp that consciousness is the only reality, you realize that external events are merely reflections of your internal state. The world mirrors what you hold to be true about yourself and others. If you believe deeply that you are unworthy of success or love, your experiences will reflect that belief. If you hold a conviction that you are deserving of abundance, your reality will manifest in alignment with that belief. This understanding fundamentally shifts the way you approach life. Instead of attempting to change the outer world directly through force, struggle, or manipulation, you realize that true change comes from within. It begins by altering your state of consciousness. Every transformation in life, whether it is personal growth, the pursuit of a dream, or the resolution of a problem, starts with a shift in awareness. The moment you change your perception, you change the vibration or frequency at which you are operating, and the outer world adjusts accordingly. For example, consider the way fear can shape reality. When someone is consumed by fear, whether it's fear of failure, rejection, or loss, their consciousness is steeped in anxiety and doubt. This state of mind influences every action they take, and it subtly or sometimes dramatically alters the outcomes they experience. They attract situations that confirm their fears, because their consciousness is focused on those possibilities. On the other hand, a person who feels confident and secure will attract situations that reflect their inner sense of assurance. The outer reality shifts to match the inner state of being. It's important to understand that this does not mean ignoring problems or living in a fantasy world. Rather, it is about recognizing that the solutions to your problems come from changing how you see them. Your consciousness has the power to transform any circumstance by shifting your focus, beliefs, and emotional energy. When you approach challenges with a mindset that they can be overcome, that you are capable of finding a way forward, you open yourself to solutions that may not have been visible before. Your consciousness shifts from a state of limitation to one of possibility, and the world responds in kind. This concept also highlights the importance of mindfulness and intentionality. Because your consciousness is constantly creating, what you focus on matters. If your thoughts dwell on negativity, frustration, or lack, that is what will dominate your experience. Conversely, when you focus on abundance, gratitude, and possibility, those aspects of life will expand. This is not magical thinking, it is the law of consciousness in action. What you give attention to grows. By becoming mindful of your thoughts and emotions, you gain control over what you create in your life. Another powerful aspect of this principle is the recognition that consciousness transcends time. Your past, present, and future are all accessible through your awareness. Many people are trapped in cycles of the past, allowing previous experiences to dictate their present and future. But once you understand that your consciousness is the root of your reality, you can break free from these cycles. You can choose to create a new reality by aligning your awareness with the future you want, rather than the past you've experienced. Living with the understanding that consciousness is the only reality empowers you to take full responsibility for your life. It eliminates the victim mindset because you see that no external force has more power than your own awareness. You are not at the mercy of fate, other people, or random events. You are the creator of your experience, and you can shape it in any way you choose by changing how you think, feel, and perceive the world around you. The idea of living in the end can seem counterintuitive at first. Many of us are taught to focus on the process, the steps between where we are now and where we want to be. But this approach often keeps us stuck in a mindset of lack or waiting. We are constantly reminded of the distance between our current situation and the desired result, which reinforces the belief that our goal is out of reach. By living in the end, however, you skip over the gap entirely. Instead of focusing on what you don't have, you embody the emotions, thoughts, and behaviors of someone who already has it. This shifts your consciousness to a place of fulfillment, even before any external evidence has appeared. The first step to living in the end is to create a clear mental picture of your desired outcome. You must know what you want with clarity and precision. Whether it's a specific career, relationship, or personal achievement, the goal must be something you can vividly imagine. But beyond just visualizing the outcome, you must immerse yourself in the emotional experience of having already achieved it. Ask yourself, how would I feel if my desire were already realized? What would my life look like, sound like, and feel like if my wish had come true? These questions help shift your focus from a state of wanting to a state of being. It's important to remember that emotions are the key to this process. It's not enough to think about the end result, you must feel it. When you live in the end, you generate the emotions associated with your fulfilled desire, whether that's joy, peace, confidence, or gratitude. These emotions create a powerful vibration that aligns with the reality you wish to manifest. The more you can sustain these feelings, the more your outer world begins to reflect them. This is because the world is a mirror, constantly reflecting back to you the state of your inner world. One of the challenges in living in the end is overcoming the temptation to look at current circumstances and allow them to dictate your emotions. If you desire financial abundance, for example, but are currently experiencing financial struggle, it's easy to let fear or frustration dominate your mindset. However, living in the end requires you to detach from the present reality and focus on the internal state of already being financially secure. You act as if the money has already arrived, even if the outer world hasn't caught up yet. This doesn't mean ignoring your present situation, it means not letting it define your emotional state. Persistence is also a crucial part of living in the end. At times, there may be little or no visible evidence that your goal is manifesting. This is where most people falter, allowing doubt and impatience to creep in. But living in the end is about faith in the unseen, faith in your ability to create your reality through your consciousness. The delay between your inner transformation and the outer manifestation is often where people give up. Yet this delay is merely a reflection of the time it takes for the external world to catch up with your new state of being. One of the most powerful benefits of living in the end is that it reduces stress and anxiety. When you constantly live in the future, worried about whether or not you will achieve your goals, you are living in a state of uncertainty and lack. But by shifting into the mindset that your wish has already been fulfilled, you no longer feel the need to worry. You act with confidence and peace, knowing that everything you desire is already yours. This allows you to enjoy the present moment more fully because you are not anxiously waiting for your dreams to come true. You are living them now, in your mind and heart, and the outer reality will inevitably reflect that. Living in the end also influences your behavior. When you embody the mindset of someone who has already achieved their goal, you naturally start to take actions that align with that reality. You make decisions from a place of abundance, not lack. You carry yourself with confidence because you know your success is inevitable. This shift in behavior accelerates the manifestation process because your actions are now in harmony with your desired outcome. Living in the end is about recognizing your power as a creator of your reality. It is an acknowledgement that the world around you is shaped by your consciousness, and that by shifting your internal state to match your desired outcome, you bring that outcome into existence. You no longer hope for a better future, you live it now, knowing that the outer world will follow. In this way, the principle of living in the end becomes not just a tool for manifestation, but a way of life rooted in faith, empowerment, and the knowledge that everything you desire is already within you. Is the cornerstone of creation, the force that shapes and molds our reality. It is not just a tool for daydreams or artistic endeavors, it is the engine behind everything we experience in life. When we understand that imagination creates our reality, we realize that we are not passive observers in life, but active participants in the formation of our experiences. Our thoughts, visualizations, and mental imagery hold immense power, influencing the world around us in ways that are often beyond our immediate awareness. At its core, imagination is the act of forming mental images or concepts of things not present to the senses. It allows us to think beyond the constraints of the physical world and explore possibilities that do not yet exist. Every invention, innovation, or personal achievement begins as a thought in the mind of someone who dared to imagine a different reality. The car you drive, the phone in your hand, and the home you live in were all once ideas in someone's imagination. These ideas, nurtured by belief and action, eventually manifested into physical form. What makes imagination so powerful is its ability to influence not just our thoughts but also our emotions and beliefs. When we vividly imagine a desired outcome, we begin to feel as though it is already true. These feelings, in turn, shape our behavior, our decisions, and ultimately our reality. This is because the mind cannot easily distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. By repeatedly imagining a scenario, you condition your mind and body to respond, as if that scenario were already a reality. Consider the role imagination plays in shaping self-identity. If you constantly imagine yourself as unworthy or incapable, those mental images will seep into your beliefs, reinforcing feelings of inadequacy. As a result, you may unconsciously sabotage opportunities or avoid situations that could lead to success. On the other hand, if you consistently imagine yourself as successful, confident, and capable, your mind and emotions will align with that vision. You will start to act in ways that reflect those beliefs, and over time your external world will begin to match your internal imagery. Also has the power to override limiting beliefs. Often people are held back by thoughts of what they cannot do or what seems impossible based on past experiences or societal expectations. However, through imagination you can create a mental world free of these limitations. You can envision yourself achieving goals that may seem unattainable in the current moment. This act of imaginative thinking opens the door to new possibilities. Once your mind accepts these new possibilities as potential realities, it begins to work towards them, often attracting circumstances and opportunities that support their manifestation. One of the most effective ways to harness the power of imagination is through visualization. This involves intentionally creating mental images of your desired outcomes, accompanied by the feelings and emotions that would come with their fulfillment. By regularly visualizing your goals as already achieved, you train your mind to accept this new reality as a possibility. Over time, this mental practice conditions your subconscious to align with your desires, making it easier to take the actions necessary to bring them into existence. It is not just limited to creating material success or personal achievements. It also plays a vital role in shaping relationships, health, and emotional well-being. For example, if you imagine a loving and harmonious relationship, your mind will naturally guide you towards behaviors that foster connection and understanding with others. Similarly, if you visualize yourself as healthy and vibrant, your body may respond to these mental images by improving its physical state, as the mind-body connection is deeply influenced by thoughts and emotions. It's essential to recognize that imagination works both ways. It can create positive realities as well as negative ones. If you spend time imagining worst-case scenarios or dwelling on fears and anxieties, those mental images can become self-fulfilling prophecies. Your mind will work to bring about the reality that you focus on, whether it is one of abundance or one of lack. This is why it is crucial to be mindful of what you imagine and to direct your mental energy toward the outcomes you truly desire. The key to using imagination effectively is to treat it as a creative power that is always at work. Even when we are not consciously aware of it, we are constantly imagining and shaping our reality through the thoughts we entertain. The more intentional we are about using imagination to visualize positive outcomes, the more we harness this natural ability to create a life that reflects our deepest desires. To fully embrace the creative power of imagination, we must also cultivate belief. Simply imagining a desired outcome without believing it is possible can hinder its manifestation. When you do so with the conviction that what you envision is not only possible but inevitable, this belief charges your imagination with the energy necessary to bring your thoughts into physical form. Imagination creates reality by serving as the foundation of everything we experience. It shapes our thoughts, emotions, and actions, which in turn mold the world around us. By consciously directing our imagination toward the outcomes we desire, we tap into a profound creative force that allows us to transform our lives. The limits of our imagination are the limits of our reality. Therefore, by expanding and nurturing our imagination, we expand the possibilities of what we can achieve and experience in life. The power of intention and attention is a fundamental force that shapes the course of our lives. Both intention and attention play key roles in determining the direction of our thoughts, actions, and experiences. Intention is the conscious decision or desire to achieve something specific, while attention is the focused energy we give to that desire. Together, they form a dynamic partnership that can transform possibilities into realities. When we learn to harness the power of intention and attention deliberately, we unlock the ability to create the life we truly desire. It is the starting point of any creation. It is the seed from which all outcomes grow. Every achievement, from the simplest task to the most complex endeavor, begins with an intention. Whether we realize it or not, we set intentions constantly. When we decide to get up in the morning, plan a new career path, or resolve to improve our relationships, we are setting intentions. But the real power of intention comes when we do it consciously, with clarity and purpose. A clear and focused intention acts as a guide, directing our thoughts, energy, and actions toward a specific goal. Intention is more than just wishful thinking or vague desires. It involves a deep commitment to the outcome we seek. When we set a clear intention, we are essentially making a declaration to ourselves and the universe about what we want. This declaration has a magnetic quality, attracting opportunities, resources, and experiences that are in alignment with our goal. Our intentions, when fueled by belief and action, set into motion a chain of events that leads us toward the realization of our desires. But intention alone is not enough. It must be coupled with focused attention. Attention is the energy that sustains and nurtures our intentions. What we focus on, we amplify. Just as sunlight, when concentrated through a magnifying glass, can ignite a flame, our attention, when concentrated on a specific goal or desire, can accelerate its manifestation. Attention gives life to our intentions by directing our thoughts and actions in alignment with the outcomes we seek. One of the most important aspects of attention is its ability to influence our perception of reality. The mind is always processing vast amounts of information, but we can only consciously focus on a small fraction of it. What we choose to focus on becomes our reality. If we direct our attention toward negative or limiting thoughts, we amplify those experiences in our lives. However, when we focus our attention on positive outcomes, possibilities, and solutions, we begin to see the world through a lens of opportunity and growth. Attention, when applied consistently, also shapes our behavior. By focusing on what we want, we naturally begin to take actions that align with that goal. This doesn't happen overnight, but through persistent attention, we develop habits and behaviors that support the fulfillment of our intentions. For example, someone who sets an intention to improve their health and consistently focuses their attention on this goal will eventually make lifestyle changes such as exercising regularly or eating healthier that bring them closer to their desired outcome. In conclusion, the power of intention and attention is fundamental to creating the life we desire. Our intentions set the direction for our goals, while focused attention brings those intentions to life. By aligning our thoughts, emotions, and actions with our desired outcomes, we harness a creative force that shapes both our inner and outer worlds. When we stay present, mindful, and committed to our intentions, we tap into our true potential as creators of our reality. Remember, what you focus on grows, and with conscious effort, you can shape your world to reflect your deepest desires. Thank you for your time and attention. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world where kindness is held as the highest virtue. It is praised, applauded, and expected. But what if I told you that kindness, this seemingly noble act, could be the very thing that ruins you? The way we perceive the world shapes every experience we encounter. Our thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions are the lenses through which we interpret reality, and in many ways they create the very fabric of that reality. This is not just a poetic idea, it is a fundamental truth about how we navigate the world and influence our outcomes. When we think of kindness, for instance, we often view it as a universally positive force. However, the power of perception teaches us that how we interpret and project kindness can profoundly affect whether it serves or undermines us. The world we see is not objective, it is subjective, filtered through our inner state of mind. If you believe that by being kind, you will win the favor of others, or that it will make you more respected, you are placing expectations on your kindness. You expect a return for your giving. But here's where the power of perception comes into play. What if the reality that reflects back to you is not what you expected? What if, instead of receiving gratitude or respect, you find yourself feeling unappreciated, or worse, taken advantage of? The key point here is that it's not kindness itself that has failed you, but the perception that underlies your actions. When we act with the assumption that kindness will lead to certain external rewards, whether it's love, approval, or a sense of moral superiority, we are not truly giving from a place of authenticity. Instead, we are manipulating the world in subtle ways, trying to bend it to fit our desires. But perception is a two-way street. As we project these expectations, the world mirrors them back in forms we may not like. This is where disillusionment sets in. You begin to feel that your kindness is a burden, something that drains you instead of uplifting you, and you may even start to resent those around you. This distorted perception of kindness is often rooted in deeper beliefs about self-worth. Many people are taught, consciously or unconsciously, that their value comes from how much they give, how selfless they can be. They perceive kindness not as a choice, but as a moral duty, one they must fulfill to maintain their worth in the eyes of others. This belief can trap you in a cycle where you constantly give, even when it depletes you, because you've been conditioned to perceive your worth as tied to this act of giving. You fear that if you stop being kind, you'll lose the love, approval, or validation you crave. The power of perception also works in reverse. Just as your assumptions shape how you act, they also influence how others respond to you. If people sense that your kindness comes with expectations, or that you are giving because you feel obligated, they may start to take your kindness for granted. They might see it as something that is owed to them rather than a gift. Over time, this creates an imbalance in relationships where one party is constantly giving and the other constantly taking, which can lead to resentment, frustration, and emotional exhaustion. But perception can be transformed. By shifting the way you see kindness, by viewing it not as a tool for gaining approval, but as an expression of inner abundance, you can reclaim your power. When kindness comes from a place of wholeness, without the need for external validation, it becomes a source of strength rather than a drain. You begin to give freely, without expectation, because you no longer see kindness as a means to an end. This change in perception allows you to maintain healthy boundaries, ensuring that your kindness serves both you and those around you in a balanced and fulfilling way. The power of perception reminds us that reality is not fixed, it is fluid, shaped by the way we see ourselves and the world. By understanding and mastering this power, we can navigate life with greater clarity, purpose, and authenticity. Life is an intricate dance of opposites. Everything in the universe, from the movement of the planets to the emotions we feel, operates on a delicate balance of forces. This balance, though often unnoticed, governs how we navigate the world, shaping our actions and the outcomes they bring. When we think of virtues like kindness, generosity, or even strength, it's easy to assume that more is always better. But in truth, excess even in positive qualities can tip the scales and create unintended consequences. Understanding the nature of balance is crucial to leading a fulfilling and empowered life. Every action, every emotion, carries its opposite within it. This principle of duality is present in everything we experience. There is no light without shadow, no joy without sorrow, no giving without receiving. It's in this space between opposites that balance is found. When we lean too far in one direction, the other side will eventually pull us back, often in ways we don't expect or desire. This is the universal law of equilibrium, and it applies to everything, including kindness. When practiced in balance, can be a source of immense strength. It fosters connection, builds trust, and contributes to the well-being of both the giver and the receiver. However, when taken to extremes, kindness can become a form of self-sacrifice. Giving endlessly without receiving can deplete your energy, leaving you feeling resentful, drained, and even used. In this sense, too much kindness disrupts the natural flow of give and take that is essential to maintaining balance in relationships and within ourselves. When we give without boundaries, we disturb the balance between ourselves and others. The universe operates on the principle of exchange. What is given must also be received. If you constantly give, expecting nothing in return, you unintentionally encourage those around you to take without giving back. Over time, this creates an imbalance where your kindness becomes a burden rather than a gift, and others may begin to expect your generosity as a given, no longer appreciating or reciprocating it. This is not to suggest that kindness is inherently bad. On the contrary, it is a vital part of human interaction. But like all virtues, it must be practiced with discernment. True kindness involves not only giving but also knowing when to stop. It requires the wisdom to recognize when you are sacrificing too much of yourself, when the balance has shifted to the point where your kindness is no longer serving you or those around you. Balance also requires acknowledging the importance of receiving. Many people feel uncomfortable accepting help, love, or kindness from others, believing that doing so makes them weak or indebted. But receiving is just as important as giving. It completes the cycle of energy and maintains equilibrium in relationships. When you allow yourself to receive, you are honoring the universal law of balance. You are acknowledging that you too deserve to be nurtured, supported, and cared for. Maintaining balance is about being aware of your own limits and needs. It's about understanding that giving endlessly is not a measure of your worth, nor does it make you a better person. In fact, constantly depleting yourself for the sake of others can lead to emotional burnout, strained relationships, and a sense of personal disempowerment. Real strength lies in the ability to give from a place of abundance, where your kindness enriches both you and others, rather than draining you. The nature of balance is found in recognizing that life is a dynamic interplay of opposites. To truly thrive, we must learn to navigate these opposing forces with mindfulness, ensuring that we are not tipping too far in any one direction. Whether it's kindness, love, or strength, balance is what sustains us. It allows us to give without losing ourselves, to help others without harming our own well-being, and to live in harmony with the world around us. Beneath the surface of our daily interactions lies a powerful, often unnoticed force, the subconscious mind. It quietly shapes our thoughts, beliefs, and actions without our conscious awareness. One of the most pervasive traps the subconscious can set is the need to please others. This deep-seated desire for approval and acceptance can subtly govern our lives, leading us to sacrifice our own needs, desires, and authenticity in the pursuit of validation from those around us. It's a trap that can take hold without us even realizing it, and it can drain our energy, self-worth, and sense of purpose. From an early age, many of us are conditioned to seek approval from others. We are praised when we conform, when we are agreeable, when we do what is expected of us. Over time, this conditioning seeps into our subconscious, creating a belief system that tells us our value is directly tied to how much we please others. As a result, we may find ourselves constantly saying yes when we want to say no, putting others' needs ahead of our own, and shaping our actions to align with what we think others want or expect from us. This behavior can be subtle, even masked as acts of kindness or generosity, but underneath it is often a subconscious need for approval, recognition, or belonging. We may believe that by pleasing others, we will earn their love, respect, or acceptance. Yet this constant striving for external validation comes at a cost. It leaves us disconnected from our true selves as we shape our behavior to fit others' expectations rather than acting from our own authentic desires. Over time, this can lead to feelings of resentment, frustration, and even a sense of emptiness. The trap of pleasing others is not just about individual actions, it's about the internal beliefs that drive those actions. At its core is a fear of rejection or disapproval. The subconscious tells us that if we don't meet others' expectations, we risk losing their love, respect, or friendship. This fear can be so ingrained that it becomes difficult to distinguish between what we truly want and what we do simply to gain approval. We begin to lose touch with our own needs and desires, prioritizing others to the point of self-neglect. Over time, this pattern becomes a cycle. The more we please others, the more we reinforce the belief that our worth is tied to how much we give or conform. This creates a dependency on external validation, making it harder to break free. And yet, despite our efforts, the approval we seek often remains elusive. No matter how much we give or how well we meet others' expectations, the sense of fulfillment we crave doesn't come. Instead, we are left feeling unappreciated or even taken advantage of, as our subconscious continues to drive us to seek validation in all the wrong places. Breaking free from the subconscious trap of pleasing others requires a shift in perspective. It begins with recognizing that true worth and validation come from within, not from others. We must reprogram the beliefs that have been embedded in our subconscious, learning to prioritize our own needs, desires, and boundaries. This doesn't mean abandoning kindness or generosity, but rather practicing them from a place of authenticity and balance, rather than a need for approval. As we cultivate self-awareness, we begin to see the subconscious patterns that have driven our behavior. We learn to act from a place of inner strength, making choices that honor our own well-being rather than sacrificing ourselves for the sake of others' approval. By breaking free from this trap, we reclaim our personal power, allowing us to live more authentically and in alignment with our true desires. In doing so, we find a deeper, more lasting sense of fulfillment, one that no longer depends on the validation of others. Kindness is often seen as one of the highest virtues, a quality that nurtures relationships, fosters goodwill, and creates positive energy in the world. But kindness, when practiced without discernment or limits, can become a form of self-sacrifice that drains our energy, time, and emotional resources. This is where boundaries come in, a concept that is just as essential as kindness, yet often misunderstood. Boundaries are the lines we draw to protect our own well-being, ensuring that our kindness doesn't come at the cost of our health or happiness. Understanding the difference between kindness and boundaries is key to maintaining healthy, balanced relationships and a fulfilling life. At its core, kindness is about giving, offering our time, attention, resources, or emotional support to others. It's an outward expression of care and compassion, a way to show that we value and respect the people around us. However, there's a common misconception that kindness means always saying yes, always being available, and always putting others before ourselves. This belief can lead to an unbalanced dynamic where our kindness is taken for granted or even exploited. Without boundaries, our acts of kindness can leave us feeling depleted, resentful, and undervalued. Boundaries, on the other hand, are not about withholding kindness, but about protecting our capacity to be kind in a sustainable way. They are the limits we set to safeguard our physical, emotional, and mental health. Setting boundaries means recognizing that we have a finite amount of energy and resources, and that in order to give generously, we must also take care of ourselves. It's about knowing when to say no and when to step back, even when we feel pressure to keep giving. Without boundaries, kindness can become overextension, where we give so much that we lose touch with our own needs and desires. The difference between kindness and boundaries is often a matter of intention and balance. True kindness comes from a place of abundance, where we give because we genuinely want to, not because we feel obligated. Boundaries ensure that our kindness remains a choice rather than a duty. When we set boundaries, we create a space where our kindness can flourish without being drained by unrealistic expectations or emotional exhaustion. Boundaries allow us to give freely, knowing that we are also taking care of ourselves. Moreover, boundaries are essential in relationships because they create mutual respect. When we set clear boundaries, we teach others how to treat us. This doesn't diminish our kindness. Instead, it enhances it by ensuring that our relationships are built on respect and understanding rather than guilt or obligation. People are less likely to take advantage of our kindness when they understand and respect our limits. In this way, boundaries not only protect us but also encourage healthier, more balanced connections with others. It's important to remember that boundaries are not walls that keep others out. They are guidelines that protect our well-being while still allowing us to engage in meaningful, compassionate interactions. We can still be kind, generous, and caring while maintaining clear boundaries that preserve our own energy and peace of mind. In fact, setting boundaries often enhances our ability to be kind, as it prevents burnout and resentment, allowing us to continue giving in a way that feels good and sustainable. The difference between kindness and boundaries lies in balance. Kindness without boundaries can lead to self-sacrifice, while boundaries without kindness can lead to isolation. The key is to find a middle ground, where we can be kind and generous without compromising our own needs. By setting healthy boundaries, we honor ourselves and others, ensuring that our kindness comes from a place of strength and authenticity rather than obligation or exhaustion. This balance is what allows us to give in a way that is truly meaningful and fulfilling. The concept of moral obligation is often deeply ingrained in our minds, shaping how we act, think, and engage with the world. We are taught from a young age that we have a duty to be kind, to help others, to put their needs ahead of our own in many circumstances. While this might seem virtuous, it can lead to an illusion of obligation, where we feel compelled to sacrifice our own well-being, not out of genuine compassion, but out of fear, guilt, or the pressure to conform to societal expectations. This illusion can be powerful, trapping us in a cycle where we mistake self-sacrifice for virtue and neglect our own needs in the process. At the heart of this illusion is the belief that kindness and service to others are moral imperatives that we must fulfill to be considered good or worthy individuals. While it is undoubtedly important to be compassionate and help those around us, the idea that we are morally obligated to do so in all circumstances is misleading. This sense of obligation can easily become a burden, where acts of kindness are no longer an expression of our true desires, but something we do out of fear of judgment or a need for approval. We begin to give not because we want to, but because we feel we have to, trapped in the belief that if we don't, we are somehow failing. This illusion is perpetuated by societal norms and cultural expectations. Many cultures place a high value on selflessness, and this can lead to an unspoken pressure to always be there for others, even when it comes at the expense of our own well-being. We are made to feel guilty for setting boundaries, for saying no, or for prioritizing our own needs. But in reality, these actions are not selfish, they are necessary for maintaining balance and preserving our own energy. The illusion of moral obligation makes us forget that we too are deserving of kindness, care, and consideration. The problem with this illusion is that it can lead to a kind of moral burnout. When we constantly act out of obligation rather than genuine desire, we begin to feel drained, unappreciated, and even resentful. The very acts that are supposed to bring us fulfillment, helping others, being kind, giving of ourselves, start to feel like chores or burdens. This is because when we operate under the illusion of obligation, we are not acting from a place of abundance or generosity, but from a place of lack, fear, or guilt. We give and give, but the more we give, the more we lose touch with our own needs and desires. Breaking free from the illusion of moral obligation requires a shift in perspective. It involves recognizing that kindness and generosity are most meaningful when they come from a place of choice, not duty. True acts of compassion are driven by an inner abundance, a genuine desire to help and connect with others, not by external pressure or fear of judgment. When we free ourselves from the illusion that we are obligated to constantly give, we can begin to set healthier boundaries and act in ways that honor both ourselves and those around us. This shift also means understanding that self-care and kindness toward oneself are just as important as being kind to others. We are not less moral or less virtuous for prioritizing our own well-being. In fact, when we take care of ourselves, we are better equipped to be genuinely kind and compassionate in our interactions with others. It is not our obligation to constantly sacrifice ourselves for others. It is our right to nurture ourselves so that we can give from a place of wholeness rather than depletion. The illusion of moral obligation is just that, an illusion. True morality and kindness are not about meeting external expectations or sacrificing ourselves endlessly. They are about acting from a place of authenticity, balance, and self-respect. By recognizing and dismantling this illusion, we can reclaim our power, give more meaningfully, and live in a way that honors both our own needs and those of others. In a world that often glorifies selflessness and putting others first, the idea of self-prioritization can feel uncomfortable or even selfish. Yet, claiming your power requires a deep understanding of your own needs, desires, and limits. Self-prioritization is not about neglecting others or becoming self-absorbed. It is about recognizing that your well-being is essential to everything you do. When you prioritize yourself, you reclaim the energy, focus, and strength that allow you to be more effective, fulfilled, and authentic in every area of your life. The concept of self-prioritization is often misunderstood because we are taught to equate worthiness with how much we give to others. Society tends to praise those who sacrifice their time, energy, and happiness for the sake of others. While acts of kindness and generosity are important, they should not come at the expense of your own mental, emotional, or physical health. Constantly putting others first leads to burnout, resentment, and a sense of disconnection from your own needs. To truly claim your power, you must understand that taking care of yourself is not only necessary but a vital part of living a balanced and empowered life. When you prioritize yourself, you become more aligned with your true self. This means listening to your intuition, recognizing your boundaries, and honoring your desires. It allows you to approach life from a place of authenticity, rather than constantly seeking approval or validation from others. When you act in alignment with your inner truth, you are able to make decisions that serve your highest good, rather than simply responding to external pressures or expectations. Self-prioritization also empowers you to set and maintain healthy boundaries. Boundaries are essential for protecting your energy and ensuring that your relationships are reciprocal, rather than one-sided. By setting boundaries, you communicate your needs clearly and prevent others from overstepping or taking advantage of your generosity. It's not about pushing people away, but about creating a space where mutual respect can thrive. When you set boundaries, you're also teaching others how to treat you with respect, consideration, and fairness. Moreover, self-prioritization leads to greater emotional resilience. When you prioritize your well-being, you become more attuned to your emotional landscape and are better equipped to manage stress, disappointment, or conflict. Instead of reacting to situations out of frustration or depletion, you are able to respond from a place of calm and clarity. This emotional strength not only benefits you but also improves your interactions with others, allowing you to offer genuine support without sacrificing your own stability. Many people fear that prioritizing themselves will make them less generous or less connected to others. In reality, the opposite is true. When you take care of yourself first, you have more to give. You are able to engage in relationships and endeavors from a place of fullness, rather than giving from an empty cup. By filling your own well, you become a more present, grounded, and effective person in all areas of your life, whether that's in your career, family, friendships, or personal growth. Claiming your power through self-prioritization is ultimately about recognizing your inherent worth. It is about understanding that you deserve to be cared for, not just by others, but by yourself. When you prioritize yourself, you send a powerful message to the world that your needs, desires, and well-being matter. This shift in mindset not only empowers you but also inspires others to respect your boundaries and value your contributions. In this way, self-prioritization is not just an act of self-care, it's a declaration of self-worth. Reclaiming your power through self-prioritization allows you to lead a life that is authentic, balanced, and fulfilling. By honoring your own needs, you create the foundation for personal growth, deeper connections, and a more meaningful existence. In prioritizing yourself, you not only claim your power but also create a ripple effect that empowers those around you to do the same. In conclusion, true empowerment comes from balancing kindness, boundaries, and self-prioritization. It's about recognizing that your well-being is essential, not only for yourself but for the relationships and impact you have on the world. But releasing the illusion of moral obligation and escaping the subconscious trap of pleasing others allows you to live authentically, while setting healthy boundaries preserves your energy and peace. Claiming your power is not about neglecting others, it's about ensuring that you can give meaningfully without depleting yourself. By prioritizing yourself, you can lead a more fulfilled, balanced life, contributing to others from a place of abundance rather than exhaustion. Thank you. Thank you. We live in a world where every thought, every word, every gesture contributes to the tapestry of our shared reality. What you say, what you do, and perhaps most critically, what you don't say, all create a ripple that touches lives far beyond your own. Today, I'm here to remind you of something fundamental: your silence is killing them. Words are far more than mere symbols or sounds. They are the creative force that shapes the very fabric of our reality. Every word we utter carries with it the power to build or to destroy, to heal or to harm. This isn't just a metaphorical idea, it is a deep, fundamental truth that governs how we interact with the world and each other. Whether we are aware of it or not, our words are constantly influencing the lives of those around us and even our own lives. We often underestimate the power of words because they seem so fleeting, so intangible. Once spoken, they disappear into the air, their physical presence gone in an instant. But their impact remains, lingering long after the sound has faded. Words are not just the vehicle for expressing thoughts and feelings, they are the very tools by which we create reality. Think for a moment about how words have shaped your own life. A single encouraging sentence from a teacher or a friend may have altered your path, giving you the confidence to pursue a dream you might have abandoned. Similarly, a harsh or careless remark can leave scars that last a lifetime, making you question your worth or your abilities. The power of words lies not only in what is said, but in how it is said. Tone, inflection, and intention all play a role in how words are received and internalized. Even words spoken without malice can wound if delivered with indifference or coldness. Conversely, words of love and kindness can uplift even in moments of deep despair. Our words carry an energy that can be felt beyond their literal meaning, and it is that energy which determines the impact they will have on the listener. This is why words are so powerful. They have the ability to shape perceptions, influence emotions, and ultimately determine actions. When we speak, we are not just describing reality, we are actively participating in its creation. The stories we tell ourselves and others become the lens through which we view the world. If we consistently speak words of defeat, pessimism, or limitation, we begin to see a world filled with those same qualities. On the other hand, if we speak words of hope, possibility, and encouragement, we start to notice the opportunities that exist all around us. It is important to recognize that words do not only affect the external world, they also shape our internal world. The conversations we have with ourselves are perhaps the most important of all. The words we repeat in our minds form the basis of our self-perception. Negative self-talk can trap us in cycles of doubt and fear, convincing us that we are incapable or unworthy. But just as easily, we can choose to speak words of affirmation and self-love, which have the power to transform our mindset and in turn our lives. This is why it is so crucial to be mindful of the words we use, not only with others but also with ourselves. Words are seeds that once planted will grow into the reality we experience. If we plant seeds of bitterness, anger, or resentment, we will harvest a life filled with those emotions. But if we plant seeds of kindness, gratitude, and compassion, we will reap a life filled with joy, love, and fulfillment. One of the most profound examples of the power of words can be seen in how they are used to influence groups and societies. Throughout history, leaders have used words to inspire revolutions, to ignite change, or to maintain control. A speech delivered at the right moment, with the right words, has the potential to mobilize entire populations. Think of the speeches that have moved you, words that made you feel part of something greater, words that made you believe change was possible. These moments are not rare, they happen every day, in small conversations and grand speeches alike. The right words, spoken at the right time, can shift the course of history. But just as words can inspire greatness, they can also be used as weapons. Words of hate, division, and intolerance can sow discord, creating rifts that may take generations to heal. It is for this reason that we must wield our words with care. The ability to communicate is one of the most powerful gifts we possess, and with that power comes great responsibility. To speak is to create. We are constantly shaping the world, brick by brick, with the words we use. So we must ask ourselves, what kind of world do we want to build? Do we want to create a world where love, kindness, and understanding prevail? Or do we want to contribute to a world filled with fear, anger, and division? The choice is ours, and it is made with every word we speak. It is the fundamental force that shapes the reality we experience. It may not seem obvious at first glance, but our thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions determine the world around us in ways both subtle and profound. The way we interpret events, the assumptions we hold, and the beliefs we internalize all influence the way reality unfolds in our lives. This principle that consciousness creates reality is not just a philosophical concept. It is a universal law that governs our existence. At its core, consciousness is the awareness we have of ourselves and the world. It encompasses not only our thoughts, but also our emotions, intentions, and beliefs. Everything we think and feel sends out ripples into the universe, setting into motion events and experiences that reflect our internal state. In this sense, reality is not something that happens to us. It is something we co-create with every thought we entertain and every belief we accept. Consider for a moment how two people can experience the same event in completely different ways. One might see an obstacle and feel defeated, believing that the world is against them. The other might see the same obstacle and view it as an opportunity for growth, believing that challenges are meant to be overcome. Though both individuals faced the same external situation, their internal realities shaped how they interpreted and responded to it. In time, these differences in perception will lead to very different outcomes in their lives. The person who views challenges with optimism will likely find opportunities for success and growth, while the person who feels defeated may become stuck, unable to move forward. This illustrates a key point: our consciousness doesn't just passively reflect reality, it actively molds it. What we hold in our minds shapes what we attract into our lives. If we constantly dwell on fear, lack, or limitation, we are likely to experience situations that reinforce those feelings. Conversely, if we focus on abundance, love, and possibility, we begin to see evidence of those qualities manifesting in our lives. This is not a matter of wishful thinking, but a natural law of the universe. Our consciousness acts as a magnet, drawing to us experiences that match our dominant thoughts and emotions. The connection between consciousness and reality becomes even clearer when we examine the role of belief. Beliefs are deeply held convictions about the nature of the world and our place within it. These beliefs, whether conscious or unconscious, form the blueprint for our reality. If you believe that you are unworthy of success, that belief will manifest in your actions, your decisions, and ultimately your outcomes. You may unconsciously sabotage opportunities or shy away from challenges that could lead to growth. On the other hand, if you believe you are deserving of success, you will approach life with a sense of confidence and expectation, attracting experiences that align with that belief. The power of consciousness is not limited to individual experience. It also extends to collective realities. Entire societies are shaped by shared beliefs and perceptions. Cultural norms, values, and collective assumptions about what is possible create the framework for the reality experienced by those within the society. When enough people believe in a certain way of life, it becomes the accepted reality. This is why shifts in collective consciousness, such as movements for social change, can lead to dramatic transformations in the world. As the consciousness of the collective evolves, so too does the reality that the society experiences. It's important to recognize that we are not powerless in the face of external circumstances. We often feel as though life is something that happens to us, as if we are merely reacting to forces beyond our control. But when we understand that our consciousness is a co-creator of reality, we realize that we have far more influence than we might have thought. By changing our thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes, we can begin to change the reality we experience. This isn't to say that we can control every external event or circumstance. Challenges, hardships, and unexpected situations are a part of life. However, we do have control over how we respond to these situations. Our consciousness determines whether we view these experiences as insurmountable problems or as opportunities for growth and transformation. It is our internal world that shapes how we engage with the external world and ultimately how we navigate through life's challenges. The principle that consciousness creates reality calls us to take responsibility for our inner world. It asks us to become aware of our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions, and to recognize the impact they have on our external experience. It invites us to see ourselves as active participants in the unfolding of our lives, rather than passive recipients of whatever fate delivers. By consciously choosing to focus on positive, empowering, and expansive thoughts, we begin to shape a reality that reflects those qualities. Consciousness is the key to unlocking the life we desire. It is the creative force through which we sculpt our world, one thought and one belief at a time. When we understand and embrace this truth, we step into our power as creators of our own reality. Awareness is one of the most profound gifts we possess as human beings. It is through awareness that we perceive the world, understand the experiences of others, and come to know ourselves. But awareness is not a passive state, it comes with great responsibility. To be aware is to have a deeper understanding of the complexities of life, to see both the beauty and the suffering that exist around us. Once we become aware, we cannot simply turn a blind eye to the struggles and injustices we encounter. The responsibility of awareness is to act, to take meaningful steps to make the world a better place. The first layer of responsibility that comes with awareness is the recognition of truth. In a world filled with distractions, misinformation, and superficiality, developing awareness allows us to cut through the noise and see things as they truly are. Whether it is recognizing the social injustices that persist, the environmental crises that threaten the planet, or the personal struggles of those around us, awareness shines a light on what is real and what demands our attention. Once we become aware of these realities, we can no longer claim ignorance. There is a moral obligation to acknowledge the truth and, more importantly, to act on it. Awareness also involves understanding the impact of our actions or inactions on the world. Every decision we make, no matter how small, ripples outward and affects the lives of others. This is especially true in our interconnected world, where the consequences of our choices can have far-reaching effects. When we become aware of how our lifestyles, habits, and decisions impact others, whether it's the products we buy, the way we treat people, or the causes we support, we are faced with the responsibility to make conscious choices. Awareness reveals the interconnectedness of all life, and with that realization comes the duty to ensure that our actions contribute to the well-being of others rather than their harm. The responsibility of awareness extends to recognizing suffering and injustice. Once we become aware of suffering, whether on a personal, community, or global level, we are called to respond. It can be easy to ignore the struggles of others when we feel they do not directly affect us. But true awareness reveals that the suffering of one person or group impacts the whole of humanity. To be aware is to understand that we are all interconnected, and the pain of others diminishes our shared human experience. With this understanding, we cannot stand idly by in the face of injustice. We have a responsibility to use our awareness to advocate for change, to lend our voices to the voiceless, and to take action where we can. Does not mean that we must solve every problem or that we are individually responsible for all the world's ills. However, it does mean that once we are aware, we must do what we can, where we can. Even small actions can make a difference. Speaking out against injustice, offering kindness and support to those in need, and making choices that are aligned with compassion and fairness, all of these actions are part of fulfilling the responsibility that comes with awareness. No one person can change the world alone. but each of us can contribute to the larger movement toward a more just and compassionate world. Awareness also brings with it the responsibility to grow and learn continuously. As we become more aware, we begin to realize how much we do not know. True awareness is not static. It is a dynamic state that requires us to constantly question, seek out new perspectives, and deepen our understanding of the world. This means being open to uncomfortable truths, being willing to challenge our own biases, and staying curious about the experiences of others. The responsibility of awareness is to remain open to growth, even when it is difficult or challenges our preconceptions. Growth through awareness requires humility, the recognition that we are always learning and that there is always more to understand. Another aspect of the responsibility of awareness is taking accountability for our own lives. When we are aware of our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, we gain the power to shape our lives in meaningful ways. This awareness allows us to recognize patterns that may be holding us back, whether it's negative self-talk, unproductive habits, or destructive relationships. With awareness comes the responsibility to take ownership of our personal growth and healing. We are responsible for using our awareness to make choices that align with our values, contribute to our well-being, and help us live authentically. Awareness empowers us to break free from unconscious patterns and to create a life that is purposeful and fulfilling. The responsibility of awareness includes compassion. Awareness without compassion can lead to judgment or cynicism, but true awareness fosters empathy, as it helps us see the world through the eyes of others. When we are aware, we recognize that everyone is struggling in their own way, and this understanding compels us to approach others with kindness and understanding. Compassion is the bridge between awareness and action, motivating us to use our awareness to uplift and support those around us. Awareness is a gift that brings with it great responsibility. It calls us to act with integrity, to make conscious choices, to challenge injustice, and to live with compassion. The more we cultivate awareness, the greater our ability to contribute positively to the world around us. With awareness, we are not passive observers of life, we are active participants in shaping a better future. Imagination is one of the most powerful forces we possess. It is not merely a tool for daydreams or fantasies, it is the engine of creation, a driving force behind every innovation, every movement, and every personal transformation. When we imagine, we are engaging in the act of creation, forming images, ideas, and possibilities that do not yet exist in the physical world. While many people consider imagination to be a passive exercise, it is in fact an active process that lays the foundation for all action. Imagination, as action, is the process of turning mental images into tangible reality. But at its core, imagination is the birthplace of all change. Every invention, social movement, or personal accomplishment first began as a thought or a vision in someone's mind. When we imagine, we are not merely entertaining ideas for their own sake, we are crafting blueprints for the future. Before anything is built in the material world, it is first constructed in the mind. Consider the architects who design buildings. They first see them in their imagination, visualizing the structure before ever laying a single brick. The same is true for any form of creation, whether it's a work of art, a technological innovation, or a personal goal. Imagination is the precursor to action. The power of imagination lies in its ability to stretch beyond the limits of the present reality. Through imagination, we transcend what currently exists and explore the possibilities of what could be. In this way, imagination becomes a critical tool for problem solving and innovation. When faced with challenges, it is our capacity to imagine alternatives that enables us to find creative solutions. The greatest minds throughout history, whether scientists, artists, or leaders, have relied on imagination to envision new ways of doing things. Without it, we would be confined to the status quo, unable to push beyond the boundaries of the known. Also plays a critical role in personal growth. When we set goals or aspire to change aspects of our lives, we are essentially using our imagination to picture a future that is different from our current circumstances. This imagined future serves as a guide, pulling us toward action. For example, someone who desires to improve their health will first imagine what that looks like, envisioning themselves with more energy, a stronger body, and better overall well-being. This mental image acts as a motivator, inspiring the individual to take the necessary steps toward achieving that goal. The power of imagination lies in its ability to make the future feel real in the present, which motivates us to take action. However, imagination alone is not enough to create change. It must be paired with action. Imagination without action is like a seed that is never planted. It holds potential, but it will never grow into anything substantial unless it is acted upon. This is where the concept of imagination as action becomes critical. Imagination should not be seen as separate from action, but rather as the first step in the process of creation. When we actively engage our imagination, we are setting the stage for the actions we will take. It is through this dynamic interplay between imagination and action that dreams become reality. For imagination to truly lead to change, it must be nurtured and developed. This means cultivating the ability to imagine not only what is possible, but also how to make it a reality. Visualization is a powerful tool in this regard. By vividly imagining the details of what we want to achieve, we can create a mental map that guides our actions. For instance, athletes often use visualization techniques to mentally rehearse their performances before competitions. This process helps them build confidence, focus, and a clear sense of the steps they need to take to succeed. Similarly, entrepreneurs often visualize the success of their ventures long before they launch them, using their imagination to chart the course of action that will lead them to their goals. Another critical aspect of imagination as action is the belief that what we imagine can become real. Doubt can often stifle imagination, making it difficult to translate ideas into action. However, when we truly believe in the power of our imagination, we become more likely to take the necessary steps to bring those ideas to life. This belief fuels persistence and determination, qualities essential for overcoming the inevitable obstacles that arise on the path to realizing any goal. The more we trust in our ability to create through imagination, the more empowered we become to take action in alignment with our vision. Furthermore, imagination is not limited to individual change. It also has the potential to drive collective transformation. Movements for social justice, equality, and progress have always been fueled by the collective imagination of what a better world could look like. Activists and visionaries throughout history have imagined societies built on fairness, compassion, and justice, visions that may have seemed impossible in their time. Yet, through collective action, these imagined futures have often become reality, whether through civil rights movements, technological advancements, or shifts in cultural values. Imagination, in this sense, is a radical act. It dares to envision a world that does not yet exist and inspires others to join in the effort to create it. Imagination is not a passive exercise, but an active force that drives change and creation. It is the mental rehearsal of future possibilities, the blueprint for what we can build in our lives and the world. But imagination must be paired with action to realize its full potential. When we combine the creative power of our imagination with the willingness to take concrete steps toward our goals, we transform ideas into reality. By engaging in imagination as action, we become the architects of our future, shaping the world around us through the power of thought and deed. Silence is often seen as neutral, passive, or even peaceful. However, silence is far from being an absence of action. It has power, and in many cases its impact can be profound. When we choose not to speak out, not to intervene, or not to acknowledge what is happening around us, our silence ripples outward, affecting individuals, communities, and even entire societies. The ripple effect of silence can lead to consequences that are far-reaching and at times devastating. While silence can be a space for reflection or understanding, when used in the face of injustice, suffering, or harm, it can be destructive. At a personal level, silence can deeply affect relationships. In many cases, silence can be interpreted as indifference or neglect. When someone shares their struggles or vulnerabilities and is met with silence, it can feel like their pain is being ignored or invalidated. This can create a chasm between individuals, eroding trust and deepening feelings of isolation. Relationships are built on communication, on the exchange of thoughts, feelings, and support. When silence replaces communication, misunderstandings, resentment, and emotional distance often follow. Whether it's between friends, family members, or partners, choosing silence over honest dialogue can weaken bonds and cause lasting harm. In a broader context, the ripple effect of silence can be even more pronounced. When silence surrounds injustice, oppression, or wrongdoing, it allows these forces to thrive unchecked. Silence in the face of discrimination, violence, or inequality sends a message of complicity, whether intended or not. It suggests that the status quo is acceptable, that there is no need for change or intervention. History is filled with examples of how collective silence enabled atrocities to occur. In times of war, genocide, or systemic discrimination, the silence of those who could have spoken out has often contributed to the perpetuation of suffering. When silence becomes the norm, injustice becomes normalized. Silence can also take on a more subtle form, such as the silence that surrounds uncomfortable truths. Many people choose to remain silent about issues like racism, sexism, poverty, or environmental destruction because addressing them would force them to confront their own complicity or privilege. This kind of silence is insidious because it hides behind the guise of neutrality. But in truth, there is no neutrality in the face of injustice. Silence, in these cases, is a choice and active decision to avoid discomfort, to protect one's own position, or to ignore the plight of others. This silence can perpetuate the very systems of oppression that many claim to oppose. Moreover, silence within institutions, whether governments, corporations, or communities, can have dire consequences. When institutions remain silent about corruption, abuse of power, or unethical practices, they contribute to a culture of secrecy and mistrust. Whistleblowers and activists often face immense pressure to remain silent because their voices threaten to disrupt systems that benefit from the status quo. In these cases, silence is maintained not just by fear, but by the collective agreement to ignore what is wrong in favor of protecting the institution. However, this silence has a ripple effect on society at large, eroding public trust, accountability, and justice. On a societal level, silence can shape entire cultures. When certain voices are silenced or marginalized, whether through censorship, fear, or systemic inequality, the diversity of perspectives is lost. Silence can enforce homogeneity, where only the dominant narrative is heard. This leads to a stifling of creativity, innovation, and progress. Cultures that discourage dissent as minority voices often struggle to evolve or address pressing social issues. In contrast, societies that encourage open dialogue, where silence is broken in favor of honest, even difficult conversations, are more likely to thrive, adapt, and grow. Breaking the silence is an act of courage, and it often comes with risk. Speaking out against injustice or wrongdoing can lead to social ostracism, professional consequences, or even personal danger. Yet it is through speaking that change begins. When one person breaks the silence, it creates a ripple effect of its own, inspiring others to do the same. Movements for social change, whether civil rights, women's suffrage, or environmental activism, have all begun with individuals willing to break the silence and challenge the status quo. The power of one voice speaking out can encourage others to rise up, creating a wave of action that eventually leads to transformation. In the context of personal healing, silence can also have a powerful effect. Many individuals who have experienced trauma or abuse are often silenced by shame, fear, or societal pressures. When they are finally able to break that silence, it can be the first step toward healing. But this is not just an individual journey. When a culture of silence surrounds issues like mental health, domestic violence, or sexual abuse, it perpetuates stigma and prevents others from seeking help. By breaking the silence, individuals can challenge these stigmas and open the door for others to share their own experiences, creating a community of support and understanding. Ultimately, the ripple effect of silence is complex. Silence can be protective in certain situations, offering space for contemplation or healing. But when silence is used to avoid responsibility, to ignore suffering, or to maintain unjust systems, its impact can be deeply harmful. Silence is not a neutral force, it is an action with consequences. Each of us has a choice in how we use our voice or our silence. The question is whether we will allow our silence to contribute to harm, or whether we will use our voices to create positive change. In breaking the silence, we create ripples of courage, justice, and hope. In conclusion, silence is not merely the absence of words or action, it is a force that can either perpetuate harm or inspire change. Whether in personal relationships, societal structures, or global injustices, our silence or our decision to break it creates ripples that affect not only ourselves, but those around us. It is through awareness and the courage to speak up that we can challenge wrongs, support one another, and move toward a more just and compassionate world. Let us be mindful of the impact our silence can have and choose, whenever possible, to use our voices for good. Thank you